Is that her?
That's Caesar.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I never recognized her. Something. Ready? Good morning. I'd like to call the regular board meeting for Tuolumne Utilities District to order here for September 12th, 2023. Mr. Sheffield, would you like to lead us in the pledge to the flag, please?
In the flag of the United States of America. Here we go with the.
Got it under control, Corey?
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, public forum. We'd like to welcome members of the public who have taken the time to attend this meeting and provide comments on matters related to district business. Any member of the public may address the board relating to any matter within the board's jurisdiction. This need not be related to any item on the agenda. However, the board cannot act on an item unless it was noticed on the agenda. Persons speaking during public comment will be limited to 5 minutes, or depending on the number of persons wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. Are there any members of the public who'd like to address the board? Seeing none in the audience, Corey, is there anybody on the web? Okay, thank you. All right, consent calendar, Melissa.
Okay, item number 1, minutes of the regular board meeting of August 22nd, 2023. Item number 2, approval of reimbursement claims for director's statement of meetings attended and for travel expenses and claim summary for August. Item number 3, reject claim for damages, claim number 23-04, Allstate claimant.
Okay, are there any comments, additions, deletions, or any other business with the consent calendar? Director Ringen.
I'd like to pull the claims summary.
Okay. Director Ringen's pulled the claim summary. Any of the other items? Then I'll entertain a motion on the first. Well, let's just go to your claim summary.
So as usual, I went through it item by item, and on page 1 of 22, Aquatech Company had me really scratching my head. I'm going, what in the world is Bob Behe's business up there testing water in the tanks? But then after I finally got my head together, and I couldn't figure out what DCI meant, but after I finally thought about it for a while and got out of my stupidity, Aquatech must just share the same name as Behe's company, number 1, and 2, DCI is dive, clean, and inspect, I imagine. So the only other thing I'll say about that is I don't know how many tanks, but I think that was for, I don't know how many tanks they did, but I can see why TUD only does those every several years, because at $11,613, that's a lot of money. And we'd be spending all our money on dive, clean, and inspect, and not building new or replacing tanks or rehabbing them. Page 2, I always get a kick out of the B of A section. Somebody please tell me what 6-inch fluorescent orange whiskers are. 1,000 pieces.
Director Ringen, I think I can address that. The whiskers are what we use when we're doing locating. Surveyors use them, and you'll see a nail and a whisker, and they'll hammer those into the ground. And the reason we use whiskers instead of paint is if we're locating outside the roadway, the whiskers just a lot more, durable. The paint's not.
Okay, well, I got a kick out of that. Orange whiskers. That was a first for me. Fluorescent even. Page 6, Bovee Environmental Management Incorporated. water tank asbestos and lead testing. Wow. It even costs big money to tear these things down. That must be the Mona Vista tanks, correct?
Mono Village.
Yeah, that's what I
tanks.
meant.
I know a lot of monos
Yeah,
and a few others.
man, that's expensive. 7, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, lake and stream bed alteration notification. Why in the world do they have their hand in our wallet once again? That's on page 7.
That particular charge is the fee for Sierra Pines. And I do have some positive news to report, even though this expense is frustrating. We have secured, they've deemed our application complete, which by law means we have 60 days for them to issue the permit. And that will be the third and final permit we'll need for Sierra Pines. We're just waiting on the money to build it.
Okay, thank you for that. But I mean, you know, $10,000 for notification, good Lord. It just doesn't stop with them. And then the final one is 15, page 15. Marco Contreras or something like that. Final and complete payment. What in the world is that? Is that the paving guy?
That's the paving guy.
So are we rid of him?
We can't talk much more than that.
Okay, all right. That's it for me.
Okay, if there isn't any more comments on the consent calendar, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by, moved by Ringen and seconded by Boatright to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, Melissa, regular business?
Okay, item number 4, approval of amendment to the fiscal year 24 capital improvement budget.
Before Eric gets started, we'll just kind of set the stage just a little bit. So the reason this is before the board, again, if you remember, maybe you don't, but back in June 13th, we adopted the fiscal year 24 operating budget, including the CIP. And that was prior to the new rates being established. And so now with the new rates, we had to amend the capital improvement plan, and it's a formality that this board has to adopt the new capital improvement plan with the new funds. So that's why this is here today.
Well, Dawn said it more succinctly than I was going to, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time other than to explain what was in your agenda packet, which is this table that has multiple columns. The first column is the current fiscal year capital budget, which was about 40% of what our infrastructure funding need was. And then the second column, which is our proposed amended budget with the revised dollar amounts and the new projects that we propose to add. And that total adds up to what this board has seen in the cost of services study as the annual average capital expenditure for the 5-year rate plan. So the rates that you adopted are sufficient to fund this level of infrastructure investment. And so this is what we're proposing. It is the result of quite a bit of work, iterations with operations staff and internally discussions about our priorities. As you can see on this list, and I'll just point out, there's 28 projects, a couple of new additions, Mono Village tanks is on there. In addition, we have the Techite pipeline, which did not make the previous capital budget because there wasn't funding. So those are new additions. On the wastewater side, we have the Mono Village lift station bypass. I'm happy to go into any detail on these
Well, I
projects.
didn't want it to go too far down the line and then not get it in. I noticed that when I went through this item page by page, the question I had was, I know that the two Techite projects are going to be put together, right?
Correct.
Will that finally end that Techite stuff up there in the Cedar Ridge area?
The intention is yes, but the reality is there is a small segment on Rhine River Court that our staff discovered when conducting a repair that we are uncertain exactly how far it goes. I mean, we know it's not tremendously long, but we haven't found the end of it. And so our goal here would be to fund the project, but to do some potholing, exploratory digging to just iron out exactly, is it a couple 100 feet more or is it just 50 feet more? We're just not entirely certain. The estimate that you see here, we feel pretty good will cover the additional pipeline footage, but we won't know exactly until we do the pothole.
But I guess where I'm going with this, are we finally getting close to eliminating all the Techite in the system?
Yes.
Oh, boy, that'll be great. All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, so if we, these are the amounts, can these amounts be offset if we get a grant? Is there savings in CIP if we get a grant to offset some of that money?
If we get a grant to fund any of these projects that are listed with dollar amounts, yes, it would offset and free up funds to allocate to another project.
Okay, and these can be modified in a way that would be appealable to grant money and still achieve what we intend to do.
Is your question, can we modify the scope of the project as kind of listed in these project information sheets to be more palatable to a grant?
Mm-hmm.
I think so within limit, like we would probably need to talk it more specifics about a particular project because there's a problem statement in those project information sheets. And to the extent that the problem statement's accurate, we need to make sure that the project addresses the core problem. If we can add other scope to the project and then get grant funds, then we're always open to repackaging things as long as they address the problem.
Okay. And I think I'll kind of hold the rest of my comments for our next agenda item, which is the strategic planning process, because that would be where I think it would be more appropriate in terms of strategic direction, strategic board direction, which may affect those projects.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So, wow, what a huge effort involved in putting this together. Thank you so much for all your time and energy and efforts to make this happen. Yeah, really appreciate it. I do have a question about the Techite. It looks like on the phase 3B, we have in 2025 additional $250,000 basically to address the Techite. My question is, and I actually mentioned this earlier to Don a few weeks back. Do we have any legal recourse whatsoever against the manufacturer of the defective pipe?
I don't recall how it was responded to before. I have heard of lawsuits against Jones Mansville, I think the original manufacturer of Techite. But those lawsuits were some time ago, like decades possibly ago.
Right.
And I don't know that the district, would predate me, ever signed on to those. So I don't have a good answer for you, but my guess is probably not, just because there's been so much time that's elapsed. And they've probably already paid out on those lawsuits.
Right. And what about insurance? do you have any recourse through insurance carriers?
For our own first party property claim to get reimbursed for the damaged pipe.
Just the tech guy issue in general. I know there's recurring property damage as a result of failure. But do we have, I'm not familiar how the insurance issues work, but do we have any recourse through our insurance with the tech guy issues?
Well, based on what Eric is saying and the age of the pipe, I don't believe that we do.
Okay.
So what we do have coverage is through with a lot of our aging infrastructure, and when pipes break of all different types of materials, the water from the pipe causes damage to someone's property, we have liability insurance that would cover us to make sure that we settle any property damage dollar amounts to the private parties. As far as our own property, we have also property coverage. So for instance, if something gets damaged by a storm or by something that was not able to be mitigated by TUD, then we would have could file a claim and get reimbursed for replacing something that was damaged. But in
Right.
this case, the techite pipe, we've never been able to file a property claim on aging infrastructure because they would, it was nothing that, it was not, say, an act of nature that caused it to break, which would be, we would be covered for. But because it's, the infrastructure is aged and it's just kind of a wear and tear item, and we don't have coverage for wear and tear.
I think we'd have probably another problem in the fact that we didn't install it. We assumed it.
We inherited it, right?
Director Jacobs, you have something else?
Well, just pointing out, given the current budget, CIP dollars and the 2020 dollars and the additional, you mentioned there would be some additional effort required. So about $2.5 million of ratepayer funds. That is huge. It would seem that it would be prudent to explore, spend a few of those $2.5 million to explore what, if any, even how remote legal recourse we might have to recoup some of those funds. So that's just my thought.
Jesse's not on, is he? Okay.
No, we can, I mean, we can certainly ask.
Yeah, we'll reach out to Jesse, see what we can do. Our legal counsel, Jesse Barton.
And it's also my understanding this is a widespread issue. It's happened, all over the country for many years. I just wonder if there might be some targeted expertise for resolving this specific problem that we might take advantage of what some other folks have done to save money in resolving this issue.
Yeah, it's a big expense. It's big liability, and your points, well taken. I think there might have been a really ambitious and very successful pipe salesman in the Sierra Foothill region pushing this product back in the 70s, because our sister agencies up and down the foothills had techite, and most of them, my understanding is, have replaced it all. So to your point, Director Ringen, is this it? Yes, after we get done with this $2+ million project, we believe we've eliminated all the techite in the system.
That salesman, I can't remember his name right now. He's passed now, but on the street right down here, I can't think of it, by the gas station that goes out over to the
Yes.
highway. Yes, thank you. He lived on Hess.
Oh. Yeah, there's no techite on Hess.
No, I wonder why. He knew better. Yeah, he used to brag about how much of it he sold up here.
Mhm. Any other comments? Director Balin?
Yeah, what I didn't see on here was something, Eric, that you had mentioned during the overview of our regional sewage treatment plant. And that was the landscaping plan for that area, which you said that they run out of money. I would like to see that on here as well. I see, this is amazing. And it represents being able to put back a lot of the projects that were weeded out that were really needed to do. I appreciate that. But at the same time, it would be good to have some of those other ones that are maybe might considered important in terms of, especially workers. I look at landscaping as a health and safety issue. When you have trees and greenery or whatever, or shade, that's important for your cars and your employees, et cetera. So I would like to see that landscape plan put back. Do you know what the price tag of that landscape plan was?
It's a great question. I wish I did. What I can say is that our scope with Kiewit is to have them install all the conduits under all the paving and the concrete, and to have it set up so that when we decide what landscaping, at least we're not tearing through things. It wasn't itemized out specifically in our bid with Kiewit, so I'd have to check with Jennifer on if she has a better idea what the cost is. But at this point, I feel like that's a great point. Let's say we finish this project up in early next year, calendar year. And then we would know we're going to be putting rock and some xeriscape in. Then I think we have a good idea, because we don't know exactly where we're going to end on this project. It's possible we can introduce a little bit of landscaping, maybe not. At that time, though, early next year, we could evaluate what sort of landscaping do we want to do and revise, because I think the landscaping plan that was prepared for the project is a little overzealous for what we need. And when you take a tour of the plant, I think you'll also see, hey, there's a lot of opportunity for rock to be placed here and very little necessarily greenscaping. So
You could budget it for the next
we could
year.
budget. Yeah, thank you. We could definitely budget for the next year when the picture is a little clearer. I wouldn't have a good idea of what to put in right now, just because one, we don't have a bid, and two, I think the scope that was originally outlined in Kiewit's bid is not really appropriate for what we're going to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, once you look at the where people are really going and where they need a break and where it makes sense to look at the traffic pattern. Okay, I have one more question.
Sure.
Okay, so along those same lines with this Sierra Pines treatment plant, one of the things that was part of the appeal of that to the local citizenry was the fact that there would be some trails. And again, I really want to avoid we ran out of money thing at the end, because it did, people were interested in that component. And that was I understand it was discretionary, but nonetheless, it's part of the sizzle that's selling the steak. And to quote Tom Shaza. And so I would like to make sure that we factor that in, even if it's a grant item that we can offset with a little money. I think for the community buy-in to honor that discretionary thing is just an important role, I believe, for TUD. It's a personal value of mine, and I think it's a cultural value here too. So I just don't want that it doesn't have to be in this per se. I just don't want us to lose sight and just say, oh, well, that just ran out of funds, this way it goes. So that's
I want to acknowledge what you're saying and tell you personally, I totally agree with you, because that site is different in my view than any other project site the district has done a large scale project on. I mean, Phoenix Lake has its own environmental and social aspects, but Sierra Pines that's actually people's backyards, and those people view it as their backyards. And the CEQA outreach that we did was very focused on what the community could get back from that. I will tell you, our grant applications include those improvements. So you know, depending on how the actual project costs come in and our funding agreements come in, it was listed in the scope for the grant applications. And that project is going to have elements of architectural design that really we haven't experienced before. The wastewater plant looks beautiful. It really does, but it doesn't need to blend in with the environment the same way that Sierra Pines will need to. So I just want to acknowledge what you're saying, and I hope we can have that discussion when there's actually funding to build the project.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And again, it is in my book, that kind of dispersed recreation in the times of COVID, when you can pick it up in sports centers, and that dispersed is just important for that community to be able to go out, especially if we have something like we did with the COVID. These things are very, very important. So thank you, Erica. Yeah, like to see us work on this. Good.
Any other director have any comments? Okay. Director Steve.
Yeah.
Finance, Mr. Finance, Steve Shepard.
Good morning, board members. Steve Sheffield, your finance director. And I just wanted to clarify with the board here that, you know, what this item is amending the fiscal year 24 capital budget. When we did the cost of services study, when we did the proposed rate increase, we cut operations and CIP down to what we had before the rate increase was approved. During that time period, we told the public, everything in our rate study, that any additional funds would go directly into CIP. So we're not proposing amending the O&M budget. We're restoring what was taken out. This dollar amount is based on that, and not what we think we're actually going to collect, because remember, it wasn't effective until August 1st. So we're just starting right now. We thought important to get this to the board as soon as possible, because people are going to start seeing their rate increase on their bills. So what we came up with was the dollar amount that was proposed was included in the cost of services study, rather than engineering and construction telling us what exactly we need to get accomplished this year, but what can we get accomplished? So that's how that dollar amount was determined. And, you know, obviously, as we move forward between now and June 30th, some may be increased, hurried along, some may be delayed, some may get grant funding. We're going to keep looking for it. But just to clarify the board, what we're asking you to is amend the fiscal year 24 budget CIP to restore to the dollar amounts Eric has in the second column, which is what was included in the cost of services study and the rate increase notice. So hope that helps. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Director Jacobs.
Yes, just to clarify, I've got a lot of things to get up to speed on. So what the board is being asked to approve is the dollar amount, the individual line items, the 32 some odd line items. Those numbers can fluctuate based on need, priorities, changing situations.
Yeah, that's an excellent clarification. That has been the approach historically, that when the board adopts the budget, they're adopting the current year's total CIP. However, as you know, day to day, we may have a main line break this morning, or we have a lightning strike or whatever. So we look at it as we're going to stay within this total budget. And that's why we're back to you, because we're increasing the total budget from here to here, rather than the board approving individual single line items. Now, clearly, some board members may be more interested in one particular project, or all of a sudden we have Mono Village tanks that rise up and stuff. But, you know, it's always brought to the board's attention, but you're correct in that it's not individual projects being approved. It's this total. And then our job is to stay within this total.
So what's the mechanism for the board to provide input to change the line items?
So on a quarterly basis, now we're bringing you a CIP status report. Every board meeting, whether it's the claim summary, whether it's specific grant opportunities, whatever it is, it's from my perspective, an ongoing feedback, an ongoing conversation.
Mhm.
But now, at least quarterly, you're going to get a financial report on operations and you're getting a financial CIP status report.
Mhm.
I wanted to clarify too, that, you know, while Eric's project sheets show many of these are multi-year projects, you're not approving 25 or 26 or 27. Yes, we should have a 5-year CIP plan and what we're doing, but it changes quite frequently. But today, the board's being asked to restore the total CIP project to these amounts. This is the plan as of today, but like Eric said, it's probably changed a couple dozen times over the last month. You know,
Right.
some have risen up, some have fallen down, and that's going to continue to be the case.
Right. Is the 5-year CIP plan available for?
It's on site, our current one now. Eric and his staff are continuing to work on that and
Okay.
develop that. So I think that'll be a future discussion item and meeting. Obviously, looking at the 5 years different than the individual remaining months we have here.
Yeah, because I noticed a lot of items that we're maybe spending 100,000 this year, but next year is going to be 500,000.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to be able to put things in perspective.
And the challenge has been with COVID and inflation and everything else. It's real challenge. It's like we said with the cost of services, farther out you get, the less confidence you can have
Right.
in those numbers and those amounts.
Right.
So.
Great. Thanks, Steve.
Director Bailey
Were you-
first and then, right.
Okay. Director Jacobs, that you bring up a really, really, really good point, because these projects have always seemed to me as placeholders to approve a project. For an example, Roach's Ditch, bringing potable water down there. I don't know what that means. And what am I approving here? And then 6 months from now, there's a agendized item that says, you may recall you approved this back here. Well, not really. We approved restoring this budget in concept, but I don't know about approving all these individual projects at the level of information that is here. So I think you bring up a good point that has long overdue need to be clarified. What are we voting on here? Because it seems to come back to the board. Well, you approved that. And it's like, well, did we? So again, I would like a whole lot of information on, I don't want to hold up this group. I feel comfortable approving this in concept, knowing we're restoring something. Okay, that can be moved around based on what pops up to the top as a crisis. But regarding, I'll just use the example of the Roach's Ditch. That ditch provided water for the 1987 complex fire. And so my question, are we going to do away with that? Is this going to be addition to? And so I don't want to hold up this meeting going project by project. And I'm sure, Eric, you're not prepared for that either. So I just want to clarify that we're restoring these projects at the level of information here, knowing that we don't really have a whole lot of information here. That's if you can understand the nuance. Okay.
Director Boatright.
Director Balin, the CIP continues, as Mr. Sheffield stated. Things in the CIP are going to change. Things are going to go up, then different things are going to get plugged in, pulled back. The board actually doesn't have control over individual projects. That's, one of the things I've always had a thought that the board should have more input into assuring that our CIP list is a list. The number one item is a number one priority, and that's the one that's immediately right on down through. But this board has not seen it that way. But that's for that. My comment that I originally posted my hand up for the Twinehart wastewater treatment plant improvements. Why is that under the CIP instead of just a mandated, even if it has to become a project? That treatment plant without the infrastructure that's stated in the project, the clarigester or clarifier digester infrastructure up there, without that, that plant, if this has been going on for a period of time, I can't imagine that it's not in violation of its WDR for odors in the area. I just, some explanation as to how fast are we moving on this? And is the $100,000 going to be able to cover what is needed to be done up there?
Yeah, good question. I can't really respond to the WDR. But just a little bit of background, we had Pace on contract to develop a plan. And the scope just continually crept and crept and crept, where we were talking about initially spending a couple of $1 million to approaching maybe just a little north of $5 million. And we just said timeout. This was supposed to be simple. Remember way back when you were on staff, we talked about, a simple way to address the plant, and the scope just crept. So I called timeout, and we're reevaluating the situation in-house along with everything else. So that's why it's on the CIP the way it is. We have not come to a conclusion of the final fix renovation.
Okay, that does hang out the district's liability as far as the State Resources Control Board being able to levy fines for, being in violation. Like I said, I know what happens when, some different pieces of equipment have went down up there, and the amount of odor that plant is capable of generating in a very tight-knit residential surrounding. So trying to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Director Boatright. Any other comments from the board? Okay, we'll open up the public forum. Seeing none here. Any on the web there, Corey? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board.
Are you looking for a motion?
You betcha.
Okay, well, I make a motion for approval of amendment to the FY24 capital improvement budget.
There a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Director Jacobs seconded. All right, any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 5-0.
President Kearns.
Yes.
Abstain.
Oh, you abstained.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I missed that. 4-0-1 with Director Boatright abstaining. Okay, Melissa.
Okay, item number 5, 2023 strategic plan progress report.
Hey, good morning. I think this is the last item on the agenda besides report. So just as a somewhat of a reminder, in 2019, the board at that time, the staff at that time met several times and developed the current existing strategic plan. And I believe each year since, this being the 4th year, staff has provided a progress report. And so this is intended to be just a report on the activities that meet the strategic plan just for the last 12 months and not all the last 4 years. So I want to ask the board a question. I intended to sort of turn the page, turn page here and read all of the things that have been accomplished, but you've all had a time. Is that what you'd like me to do, or would you rather take the time and just ask me some questions based on your review of it? Do you have a preference? Turn the page. It'll take a few minutes for me to get through everything, but I don't want to bore you either.
Director Ringen?
I think that going through each and every item would be really time taking and not really make any big difference. I went through every single one of these before I came to the meeting, and I think that's what we need to do, is already be familiarized with what is in our agenda items. And then if we have questions, then we get to bring those up at the board meeting. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and so that's why I posed the question, because as I was preparing for the last several days on this, I realized this is taking me quite a bit of time to just all by myself in my office, let alone if there's, questions to be answered. So I'd rather not just read to you, because that's basically what I'm going to do, and you all can read well. So why don't we just start with some question and answer, unless you want something from me, want me to highlight anything, or like I said, let's just, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Director Ringen.
I really don't have any questions. I thought it was well laid out. I'm just impressed at how much has been, I don't know, I got to really compliment our GM and our staff and employees for how much has been accomplished. So I'll just leave it at that. I was really impressed with this.
Thank you.
Who's next? Director Balin.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was a great accomplishment report, and clearly, TUD's getting a lot done, and there's a lot of boxes that were updated and filled in. Okay, so I want to give high praise to that and not have that discounted, but I do want to focus on what's in front of us right here, which is strategic goals. And it seems to me that these were great. And when they were done collectively with staff and board. We've had turnovers, and I believe that the whole strategic board direction needs to be added to this document in addition. And that strategic direction would be an example of the board have a workshop and go, well, you know what, it's really important that we diversify our revenue streams. Okay, it's really important that the board would like to take full advantage of acting on what the grand jury gave us in terms of we need more recreation opportunities. We have a lot of good language for partnerships, overall. But in terms of a strategic directions from this board, and when I went through the state government natural resources grant programs, there was environmental enhancement and mitigation grant money for that. There was $47 million that was just allocated for urban greening. This stuff can seriously get our CIP done with an amazing amount of leverage in an inclusive, environmental, integrated way. And that's what I would like to see in this for the directors to look at strategic direction. I know the PAT ones, which is pursue those water rights, get that, Phoenix going. And then of course, all the things that are listed in here, which is just really good. These are great. But again, board direction, I'd love to see codified in this is the grand jury's number 7, I think, that says for TUD to find those opportunities to protect, preserve, and enhance the environment and to enrich recreational opportunities in the county. I love to see that as a strategic direction for this board. And I'm sure each board member has their own things too. So that's just my addition to this, is for the board to revisit an actual direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Director Jacobs.
Yep, just a question. When these strategic goals were developed, how many of the existing board members were present?
I believe it was the 3 of us, correct?
I was an employee.
Right, you were still an employee. You certainly weren't here, Director Jacobs. I believe the 3 of us were.
Was it under Ed? Who was it under?
I believe it was under Ed, yes.
Yeah, see, I think that's something we have Dawn now.
Mhm.
Well, was the original concept of strategic plan, or the current version of strategic plan? As far as what was the question? at what time was the original strategic plan that has been modified and grown over time? Or the existing concepts that are in here?
Well, the question was who among the existing board members were part of the development of the strategic plan?
The current, the
As
current one.
it is current.
Yeah.
I think there were three of us.
Yeah, the three of us were. Yeah.
But again, it was, it's all in how you're led.
Right.
Okay.
And then just a follow-up question. As far as our planning horizon, what as a group, as a board, or as a entity do we look at for a planning horizon? Is it a 5-year, 10-year, 50-year, 100-year? Or do we have, or has that been defined?
I'll start and anybody can add to it. I think maybe it's a matter of opinion and maybe there's some standardized best practices, but I think at minimum a 5-year outlook at minimum. I think there's 2 different, maybe 3 different ways that we do that. But I think it starts with the strategic priorities. I think I know the board should and does set our priorities for us. It's not the other way around. Now we contribute wholeheartedly and heftily, but really when it's finally said and done, the board adopts the strategic priorities, which includes, the vision, the goals, the priorities, and all the strategies and action plans that go along with it. So for me, and I'm a rookie, really. I'm still on my second sophomore year, but I feel like this is a 5-year, every 5 years at minimum, you should go through this set of strategic planning. I think what Director Balin is Director Balin and I have talked many times over this topic, and what I don't want to speak for you, but I just want to recognize that I'm listening to you, is she wants board-driven goals and values that are different than your day-to-day improved wastewater collection systems. So 5 years is I think a minimum. And I will just say that, and thank you, Director Ringen, for saying what a well job we've done, because however you feel about the existing plan, we take it serious. Everything we do must be able to point somewhere in here and say, this is why we're doing this today. And we take it to heart. And I think, we all of us in the district want to succeed at a high standard. And I feel like we strive to do that. And I think it's reflective in just about everything we do. I don't know if that answers your question, but I wanted to say all that stuff. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, Director Balin?
I think that's a good point. And I think that even though some of the strategic goals are mentioned here that are part of individual board values, here's another good example of staff kind of understanding loosely board direction. When Eric Johnson was looking for a location for a new water treatment plant, one of the criteria, I could tell that you were keeping that triple bottom line emphasis in your search, because one of the first things she said is, oh yeah, it's along the ditch system. That was really important that we have gravity fed water going directly to that. And maybe that was just all in you and had nothing to do with the board, but it was good for directors to re-clarify together cohesively as an exercise, which this board has not done yet. It might spit out to be very similar to this, because I just mentioned one that was on here, but that we make it, we say it's a priority to try to diversify our water portfolio and our revenue streams. It's more esoteric than under best management practices. So I know you understand where it is, and I look at it as a complementary, where it's just directors alone that are having this discussion. That's all. And that's why I would call it strategic direction, not priorities, because I think you guys are the boss of some of the priorities, in my opinion. you know what's falling down out there, but we may come in with, hey, everything's got to be really integrated. That integrated resource management, that's our thing, or something like that, so I think you do understand.
I think Director Balin and President Kearns, maybe the three of us can meet someday and talk about this topic and specifically so we can kind of nail it down.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments or questions for Dawn? Okay. This is not an action item. So we'll go ahead and accept this and file it away. Okay. Move on to staff reports.
Well, boy, seems like the third time in a row I'm about to say not much to report. I've been busy. I promise you I've been busy. Some of the exciting stuff that I've been involved with is at least a little bit is there's an awful lot of training going on the new equipment down there at regional. So that's just been happening the last couple of weeks. We got some more training this week. So we trained on the blowers, how they are going to work and how they're maintained a couple of weeks ago. And we trained a little bit on the clarifiers and how they're going to operate and be maintained. Coming up this week, I think we're going to train on the filters down there. So it's exciting. It's fun stuff for me. But
Tell them how many pages the manual is. that you got.
800 and some odd pages, and it really made me sick to my stomach. I got that about a month ago. Oh, brother, with all these other things. So, but anyway, it's working out. You don't think about it as it's like eating the elephant. It's one section at a time, about 50 some pages at a time. So it's not as bad. The only other thing that I can want to share with you is yesterday I met with Sean Hembry and Liz Peterson, sort of a re-engagement with the Tuolumne County Water Agency. They've gone a little bit different direction in that regard. And so we just met with staff. They intend to, by staff, I mean me and Eric Hall met with them yesterday, and we talked about, we Eric and I reiterated what we feel are some of the priorities where we think that the agency can help and assist. Talk Phoenix Lake and Sullivan Creek and things of that nature, and a few other things. But it was a pleasant conversation. I think we met for about an hour. They still intend to go meet with Twain Harte, CSD, Groveland as well. And I suggested at some point, once they've met with all of them, that all three agencies at the staff level kind of meet and compare notes, make sure we're all kind of walking in the same direction. So more to report on that later, I guess. That's all I have.
Okay. Who's next? Steve.
I'll tag in here. I do have a few items for the board's benefit as well as the public. First of all, last week we had the auditors here on site. They've completed their field work. We're in the process of going through the review stage. Typically, we bring the audit presentation to you the second meeting in September. So that's not confirmed yet, but that's tentatively the plan. We also, every 2 years, we have an OPEB or a retiree health actuarial evaluation. That has been completed. We're coordinating with them, whether they come on that same date or another date. We'll figure it out. Another item we've been dealing with for a little while now, specifically Dawn and Eric Hall and April, our customer service person, is back in July, we were contacted by the State Water Resources Control Board. And they were notifying us that, we're part of the Merced district, or have been for all time, I think, since we started. But they recently split the Merced district and they have a Yosemite district now. So all of Tuolumne County and all of Yosemite National Park is part of this Yosemite district. And we get a brand new Yosemite district engineer. So she contacted Dawn and Eric Hall wanting information about a wide variety of things. They do monitoring at the treatment plants. They're responsible for ditch activities. It goes on and on and on. Well, one of the things they were specifically asking about is we have a 2002 constructed conveyance compliance agreement that was required by the Environmental Protection Agency. The State Water Resources has to report to them on any customers off of the ditch. And we do, a bottled water program for the ditch domestics. We do surveys. Well, they were asking about the certification, which last time that was done was 2018. There was some dispute about the agreement and what we really needed to do. And they wanted this certification done as soon as possible. Well, that would have required reaching out to all our ditch customers, doing a survey. So after we talked to them, showed them what we do, they essentially have asked us to get a certification from all ditch domestic customers. So on August 4th, we mailed out a survey with a return on postage paid return envelope. There's 133 ditch domestic customers. By ditch domestic, Glenn, if you don't know, those are customers who have no other source of water, being potable, being TUD, whatever it is, they have no other source of it. So by special agreement, they're able to have this water, but they have to buy bottled water. And we have to track the bottled water purchases and do that. This particular district engineer is very adamant. We have to complete this by January 1st. Last time we did it in 2008, 2018, it took us a couple years to get everybody to sign. They will not accept a phone call. They will not accept an email. It has to be a wet signature. So after the first mailing, we got back about 60, which is better than I hoped, because a lot of these customers are either not on site or it's been inherited or down the road. But they have a 5-step process, and that's why I'm bringing the board's attention. Each step gets a little more aggressive and assertive. So the second attempt was mailed out September 4th. We have to wait 15 days. Then we have to do a third attempt to contact them. Then we have to try and do an actual visit to the property if anybody's there. Then we have to do a final notice, and then down the road come November, we either have to have them signed up or something else is going to happen. So I just wanted the board to be aware. We're going through it. Again, it's 130 customers. We have approximately 70 to go. We're doing everything we can, reaching out to these people via phone, email, with their bill, everything we can. So that we'll give all the notice. And they've been fine to work with, but like Don said, it's important for us to establish this relationship. So I want the board to know. Lastly, I've been very hesitant to bring this up, but I feel I need to notify the board that with a very heavy heart, after the rate increase process, I submitted my resignation. So my last day will be January 5th for the district. And I know Don and Abby are working on it already, but this means a lot to me, the staff, the customers, and what I've done. And hopefully I've contributed to the improvement of this place. And I want to leave it in better shape than I found it. So anyway, for the board's information.
Wow. Okay, Steve, that's big news. And I have dealt with a lot of CPAs and accountants and over my professional career. And I have to say that I don't know any of them who has been more loyal to to their particular organization that I've seen in you. And that's a surprise, and I wish you well in your future endeavors. It's been a pleasure and an honor working with you.
And, I'll assure the board that, over the time I've been very fortunate, much like finding my wife for 40 years, I found staff who are just exceptional. And none of them want my job. I can tell you right now, that doesn't appeal to them. I'm not sure they have the skills to do it. It's obviously an important position for this organization, but I think, with a good person coming in here, I have a fantastic group and even staff that's gone on to other positions and stuff, so hopefully I'm leaving you in good hands and we find somebody here, but thank you, Jeff.
Director Ringen.
So I've got a question and a couple comments. On going back to the ditch certification or whatever that is. that's gonna really be tough because I know I did a home inspection back several years ago and it turns out that the people that were living in the home, they were thinking about buying it. And so I won't get into all the details, but as I'm going around the outside of the house, I run into this filter system on a wall. Well, come to find out, A, they're renters, and B, that's raw ditch water. I mean, who would ever know? And you know, so at any rate, this is going to be a tough one. I don't know how you guys are going to do it. And then my comments are, my first year on the board, had the opportunity to see you come on board. And so I've watched you through all these years. And the finance director that we had prior to you was, for the lack of better words, horrible. And you just turned everything around. You've done a fantastic job. So congratulations, and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions? Director Boatright.
Steve, appreciate, all your dedication and hard work, and, we've had our bits, and I think those can be looked at as good and bad, but overall, remember, you are appreciated for what you've done. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Steve? I've got one more question on that ditch issue you mentioned. You mentioned, Steve, that there'll be a visit. Will that be a visit to all or just the ones who haven't responded?
Yeah, it's the purpose of the visit is to try and elicit a response. It's a one-page questionnaire, one-page survey that went out to them. That is their certification. I've explained to them, all the things that's unique about us and our ditch domestic customers. All these people are on the ditch bottled water program, so they're in compliance from that. But, they're doing this, and technically it says this is supposed to be done every year. They have now agreed that we can do it every 2 years. The real thing is you're not allowed to add any new ditch domestic customers to the ones we have. And they just want to certify that the people understand, the health risk by using this water. And we do send out a notice every year with the ditch outage, I believe, or nearby it, basically with the EPA's warnings about how ditch water should be used and what it's to be done. But, most of these people, the inspection won't be that. And ultimately, they're going to require us to disconnect or shut off their water. Some of these people haven't used the water in years and it isn't there. So we may never hear from them. Other ones that may get their attention. Again, I was pleasantly pleased with the 60 that responded right away, because we have gotten calls from, people who have said it's none of our business. We don't have any right to do this. Ditch customers are a special breed. And so we are doing our best, and April's kind of running lead on this, our customer service supervisor, and she's coordinating directly with the State Water Board on this. There's a couple of their staff that are driving what it needs to look like, how it needs to do it, what the dates are. So I'll continue to keep the board informed, but we could get, an upset customer or somebody questioning why and what we're doing this, but.
Who will be going out and doing the on-site visits?
Basically, the ditch system, they're assigned particular ditches, pretty much the ditch tenders. They're the ones who communicate directly with the customers more than anybody else. But also we have a ditch foreman, we have a ditch superintendent. They all do, I think, a really good job communicating with the ditch customers. So it'll be a combined effort on that as far as who's appropriate to it.
Good. Thank you. Anything else for Steve? Okay, who's next?
Hi, everyone. Abby Parkon. I thought I had mentioned at the last meeting, but I realized we've had 3 weeks since our last meeting, so time flies. 2 days after our last board meeting, Eric Hall and I attended the Tuolumne County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan update meeting over at County OES with Dory Beats and several different community partners and local jurisdictions that have an annex within the county's plan. I brought this up a couple of months ago. We're actively updating our plan and working with the county on the updates. It has a lot of historical information over the last 5 years about what types of storms, some new types of hazards that our county has been subject to, and that will be included in the new plan. This plan is updated every 5 years, and it's a requirement in order to be eligible for FEMA funding. So the plan itself expires in April 2024. So we started about 3 months ago with the county to update this plan, and we continue those ongoing update meetings with them, and just wanted to let you know that we continue to do that, and this will be brought into your board by the end of November, early December for approval, so then it can go to the county and ultimately approved by the Board of Supervisors as the full plan.
Okay.
Does anyone has any questions of me? That's the end of my report.
Okay, thanks, Abby. Eric, do you have anything today? Okay. All right, then we'll move on to Director's Communications and Reports. Who wants to go first?
No, I could.
Okay, Director Ryan.
So find my little cheat sheet here. On 8/29, went on a facility tour with GM Perkins. It was really, really informative. We looked at several tanks, both good and bad. The thing that really stuck out in my mind, I was really impressed. We went to see the crew working on the Mount Provo intertie. Oh man, that is quite a project. I mean, and those folks out there are really making some progress. It's unbelievable. And even with all the rock that they're hitting. So very impressive. And how they're able to do it with traffic. It's not heavy, but I mean, with homeowners trying to get by, and just makes it even tougher. So anyway, it's a excellent job they're doing out there. 8:30, attended the ditch committee meeting, which I'll let Director Balin fill in because she's the chairman. But I thought it was very productive. And then on 9/5, Tuesday, I met with Dana Jorgensen, who's he and I have been basically friends for quite a number of years. I've known him since he worked for other senators and assembly people and stuff like that. And right now he is the head, I don't know what you want to call him, administrator, whatever, for Senator Alvarado Gill. And basically what I spent quite a bit of time with him, and I gave him a update on all the things that, well, not all, but I mean, all the major high points of what TUD is doing and has accomplished and is about to accomplish. And I didn't really put in any ask from him other than for him to, if he or the senator happen to hear or can uncover some sort of funding so that we can finish the Phoenix Lake project. So he's gonna do that. And then the other thing I brought up was that I felt that we were gonna need he and the senator to work on CAL FIRE to wean them off of our fire hydrants and treated water and onto the fire water draft points, which are going to be coming up here pretty soon. Rick Lind is from EN2 Resources, has got that thing ready to go for, I think we've already gotten a grant for part of it. And so it's going to happen fairly soon. And we need to change CAL FIRE's thinking on what water they use, because if we had God, I hope not, but if we had a big fire that got into the housing area, and they use the water from the hydrants, what would we have to drink and everything after the fire's out? So if they go to the raw water first, and then if they have to go to the fire hydrants, well, and that's just what it takes in order to put the fire out. But at least they don't drain our tanks right out the gate. So I can go on and on because he and I covered a lot of ground, but I'll leave it at that. It was just a very, very productive meeting, and I think Dana is going to be on the IRWM tour of the new treated water plant, and he's really looking forward to it. So I think it's nice to have a connection like that to where, and have them it be a good connection, a positive one. So that's it for me.
Okay. Director Boatright, anything?
No reports at this time.
Okay. Director Jacobs?
Yes, I'd like to report that yesterday, September 11th, I attended a LAFCO meeting. There weren't any issues that directly impact TUD. It mostly had to do with dissolution of some county service agencies that had been created for road construction and been abandoned for quite a bit of time. And there was also some discussion of forming a Jamestown Community Services District. So that's in the works. A lot more involved in that issue, but nothing directly impacting us.
Thank you. Director Balin?
A quick question for Director
Sure.
Jacobs first. So I heard, I don't know, rumors or something that that LAFCO, that they were going to do, the county was going to do away with LAFCO. No, they were going to do away with their participation in LAFCO. What would they, could you explain what they were getting rid of?
I don't know that it's possible for the county to do that.
That's what
Because it's a state,
yeah.
it's a state, it's legislated by the state.
Mhm.
The county is participates in it, as does the city of Sonora and special districts like ourselves.
So could you repeat what the counties, what you had just reported on, it just the very beginning, that the county was not going to participate? What did you say?
Yeah, when a development is started, there's sometimes as a requirement, there's required to start a county service agency it's kind of like a homeowner's agency, homeowner HOA, for the purpose of maintaining roads.
Roads.
Correct.
Okay, so when there's going to be development, the county does this piece to in regarding roads. And they're not going to do that anymore.
Jeff, you probably have a lot more experience in this than I do, but
Well, the only thing I was going to add is that, years ago, when these subdivisions were built, the developer offered those roads for county maintenance, and they accepted them. That was their plan. That was their mantra back in the day, and that's why they maintain the roads in places like Willow Springs and Crystal Falls and other places. And as time went on, they realized that they couldn't continue to do that because it was too big. So that's where this county services agreement thing started way back. I'm not sure when, but what happens then is the individual lot owners, as those lots are sold off and houses are built, those people are part of the CSA, the county services agreement, and they put money towards that to maintain those roads. So they're privately maintained by the homeowners, like Glenn was saying. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And so the burden of the road maintenance is put on the property owners.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the county has recognized that it's really not of value to the county to have a developer put in an infrastructure and then take it over as county maintained roads.
As far as roads go,
As
correct.
far as roads.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that is kind of a little bit similar to pipes too, because again, it's difficult when there's no economy of scale. You know, that's a lot of roads out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for
Mhm.
explaining that. Okay.
I have a question on that. Do we have a specific area where these roads are in much better condition under this, or is this just a brand new?
Oh, no, it's been going on for several years. Eric, do you have any idea when they started that? It's been a while. It's decades.
Yeah, it's been quite some time. Yeah, and I think the ones they were dissolving aren't all CSAs in the county. I think they were just some of these inactive ones.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's another funding mechanism for roads. And the county administers it, so it's paid into, I think, through property tax. And then county has a improvement schedule. They take those funds, and it's actually county staff that oversee the improvement projects on behalf of the CSAs.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how effective it's been. It's just another way to, collect for a specific area, kind of like an improvement district would be.
Yeah. How does that process go, Eric? It's been a while since I've been involved in that, but I believe the county accepts the roads as
Yeah.
as what's the term I'm looking
So
for? So that everybody can use them.
Right.
But as far as the maintenance goes, it goes back to the property owners.
Correct. So
Otherwise, they could put up gates and keep people out and all that other stuff. So it's open to anybody who would like to use them.
Right. It's been, I don't know again how long it's been, but quite frequently the county will, the developer will dedicate for public use.
There you go.
The roads,
That's it.
and the county will accept them for public use,
Right.
but reject them for maintenance. And so essentially you have a road that the public can travel on, but there's no real clear funding or maintenance responsibility. So then the CSA is one mechanism that could transfer that over to those people in the community services area. Again, that's about the limit of my knowledge here.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's been going on for quite some.
President Kearns, if the board wishes, I can have Melissa send you guys the last agenda that lists all this stuff for you. It'll give you the specific areas if you wish to see it. I'll have Melissa send it to you.
Just wanted to know if there was an area that demonstrated the effectiveness of the program.
I read the agenda and there's several pages worth of these areas. So
Mhm. Yeah, like I say, it's been decades. It's been going on for quite some time. This isn't anything new. It's been going on probably since the late 90s, I would suspect at the earliest. So maybe even before that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Director Balin.
Yeah, three things. One, I just wanted to comment on that. I suspect that happened. I think this is germane because the public does not have an understanding of this at all. When the Forest Service logged 50% of all those timber receipts went to roads back in the county because it was in lieu of taxes, and 50% went to schools. And that was under the Rural Self-Determination Act, or Rural School Self-Determination Act. And that went away in the 90s. that money ceased coming into our county, and a lot of people don't understand that either. 50%, I mean, that's a lot of money for all those timber sales. And so our roads were in better condition, and our schools were too. So I think that could have had something to do with it. I think it's really important people know the history of why the roads are the way they are right now. But okay, so that's one. Okay, second is Steve. I just want to say that you asked the question that you said you would have hoped that your tenure here would have left us in better shape. And I can absolutely guarantee you that it has. It absolutely has, Steve. Yes, that's it. So thank you. So now with Ditch Committee, Director Ringen mentioned that there was a $250,000 grant, and it's going for two things. We met on August 30th. It was an amazing presentation. Anybody can watch it, go back to it and see it. But the reality is that there was a lot of preamble work that got us to this point, that got us grant ready. It doesn't just happen overnight because we're not a rich district, and we don't have CEQAs shovel ready like richer districts, because they'll just expire. So we just do it as the money comes in. So the two areas for this $250,000 U.S. Forest Service grant is going to focus on wildfire risk mitigation for TUD infrastructure. If you notice, it's not called fuel reduction because we don't know what's out there that's working for us in terms of a landscape approach. So that's deliberate language. And the second is wildfire protection. Again, fire water draft points for water. And this is something that we're doing on behalf of the entire community. We have 70 miles of fire hydrant, and it's not treated water. And I just can't stress that enough. This is an enormous service that TUD is doing to help this community. And I think that that's just essential for any OES dialogue, what we're trying to do. It's a cultural shift. I get it. CAL FIRE is slowly, believe me, they use that water. That's well documented, but it's just the way I think, we're going. This is a real roulette. We're one of the last counties that hasn't had a real strong urban structure fire like Lahaina had. So at any rate, I'm really proud of the district and the work we did with Rick Lind, and especially getting the other group in there to identify the ditches, all the ditches values. It's just not potable water to 130 some odd people. It's so much more. Again, if it wasn't for the Roaches ditch, that was the line for the complex fire. So I really invite that engineer to come up and listen to I know she's just worried about potable, but nobody's died, as far as I know, drinking that water. So at any rate, it was a really good, productive meeting. And I really want to appreciate staff for putting all this together, because I think this community is going to benefit from what we're doing, the whole community, not just our customers. So with that, that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. I got a few things. First thing, August 25th, I met with General Manager Perkins and staff. We discussed some possible future storage issues and enjoyed that meeting very much. After that, I attended the California Special Districts Association annual conference in Monterey. A lot of good stuff down there. One thing that one of the breakout sessions was called Bank on It. And it was this woman from Georgia came and spoke to us about the Federal Reserve and what to do with our investment money and everything. And I want to tell you that almost all of the bullet points that she hit on, Steve and his staff are already doing here. So that was very good to see. So good job. I wanted to point that out to you, Steve. Also, something that anybody who watches these meetings and with my multiple recusals, I took one of the breakout or a couple of the breakout sessions regarding conflicts of interest and Brown Act issues. And those are always of high interest to me, and things are changing and there's all kinds of little traps. So I would I would just throw it out there to all board members to pay attention to that stuff. And then there was some other things here. I could talk for a long time on that, but I won't. The final thing is the Aqua Vice Presidential candidate that we have a vote for. We placed our vote for Ernie Avila. So I spent a long time on the phone with him, and it was a good conversation, and so that's who we voted for. That's all I have. If anybody else has anything else, now's the time to speak. General Manager Perkins.
Yeah, just as kind of a forewarning, the next agenda, in a couple of weeks, it's already really long. There's, I think, 9 items on there. 3 of them are I'll say routine in nature, but they must get done next meeting. 3 of Steve's annual items. But anyway, there's 9. Including the ops report and the update to this regional plant. So President Kearns and I are going to meet and try to discuss ways to trim that up, move something out of a couple of weeks and Justin Caparuso is going to be here. So to not have a 4-hour long meeting, Director Kearns, I can figure out a way to pare it down a little bit. So just a little warning. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Anybody else? Anything else? All right, then we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.